Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look here today at Shiba Inu, and I got so many dang requests from this recently that I had to cover it, including some of my patrons, which is unusual in that sense just because I always recommend to my patrons to invest in coins that have good fundamentals. Not to say that this one doesn't, but it's essentially a Dogecoin, and you know what I mean by that. But regardless, we're going to cover Shiba Inu. This is just a technical analysis. There's no fundamentals here. And just know if you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. I have been in the industry for over 15 years, however, so you're in very good hands. I can assure you that I always provide best practice and try to make sure that you take profits while you still can. So just keep that in mind. I'm very profitable myself. I have about an 85% success rate. I share all of my signals with my patrons too, so check that out. There's a link in the description below for that if you're interested. I actually have a private chat group. I provide all my signals through a trading bot, so you can just one-click follow. Really awesome situation. So check that out again in your own time. But I just want you to know that my goal is to help you become more of an effective trader, to ensure you trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. So I always try to teach as much as I can in my videos, but I also recommend you do as much research as you can. Furthermore, always make sure you learn as much as you can from other people as well. I'm not the bee's knees. I am not you shouldn't be taking what I say as gospel. Even though I do feel comfortable in my own way and it works well for me, we all have our own trading styles, right? You got to develop that, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So I hope you can learn something here today. That is my goal, and we'll look forward to seeing if you do. So let me know in the comments below if you had learned a thing or two here today. If not, that's okay as well. Thanks again for joining me here. Let's go ahead and get to the video. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here at Shiba Inu. And just before we do, we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a quick baseline of the market, just so we know what's going on, just because it makes more sense to understand how well Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing and or how poorly they're doing going into investing in an altcoin. Okay. Now, Shiba Inu is a bit of an exception, I guess you could say. Same with Dogecoin as well. But I did say I would cover this, and here we are. So thanks to my community members once again for requesting that I cover this here today. Now, before we jump into Shiba Inu, let's go ahead and take a look at the chart for Bitcoin. And just to preface, I use TradingView.com desktop application. Link in the description below if you're interested in considering maybe a free month where you can try before you buy, see if you like it. I recommend paid versions just based on the simple fact that you get more than 2 indicators present at any given time, and that's like the the best way to go, honestly, is to be able to have obviously more than 2 indicators. I use 2 per time frame. So instead of enabling, disabling, you get a chance to just kind of jump right in. Anyways, that being said, we'll go through that here in just a moment. But what we look at first, again, is Bitcoin. This is the 4-hour chart. And we'll go ahead and just turn on our simple moving averages. We're both above the 200 and the 50-day simple moving average, right? We've also got a support level here at 46,800. That was almost tested here today, roughly about 12 hours ago. I almost got filled. I was a little greedy there and put 46.8 as my entry order, and it was 46.9 is where it dipped down to. And it went on a tear all the way up to about 49.5. Now at this point, we've got a potential support level here. And I say potential because it technically hasn't closed above the 1-day chart, but we're looking at 48,800 as a new support. Okay. Other than that, not much else to really note. I don't need to really mention anything about these other support levels here because they're a little bit further away. But we do have another next major resistance at about 52,650. Another thing I did notice here as well is that we do have somewhat of a reverse head and shoulders pattern where we got, this, we can see it here. Got the upside down head and shoulders, and with the potential for that, right? So just keep in mind that is a possibility. It's too early to really speculate, but there's a chance we might see a decrease before the next major increase. Moving on to Ethereum. Ethereum is pretty much doing what it normally does when Bitcoin performs the way that it has. So simply put, we're up above the 200-day simple moving average, holding as a support. We've got a resistance up here at about 3,600 and some change, basically 3630, and then a support level here at about 3,200. So right in the middle, right smack dab right in the middle of the support and resistance channels, and the 200 is essentially working as a continuation. So what we could see is the 50 move upwards, continue to push the price action up, and essentially hold as a support, and that could possibly cause somewhat of a golden cross. So it does happen sometimes. The 4-hour chart is a little less important as compared to the the 1-day chart when it comes to the golden cross, but that still does play into things. So take a look at that here as well. That might be something that could happen. Let's take a look here at Shiba. Geez, that is a pretty significant increase. I wonder what that is here, CO. So if you were in, you could have had about a 77% gain in about 16 hours. So that's pretty substantial. It reminds me of when Dogecoin just decided to take off. So I'm speculating there's some fundamentals here that we can't see, because the technical data doesn't really speak much here from what I can see already as to why it took off. Yes, it broke through its most recent high. I don't think that was the all-time, yeah, just the most recent high. So just to clarify, we got this resistance level that was a previous resistance. You can see the price just shot straight through that. It got rejected out almost three times and then broke through. So 909 is essentially no longer a resistance level. That's now a support. We'll go to shorter time frames and find different opportunities. We'll maybe check out the Fibonacci retracement. It's really all you can do is look at shorter time frames and develop certain support and resistance levels when we got this much movement. But why don't we go ahead and take a look at the one-day chart first, okay? Now, I try not to really bother with the first few days of trading, because as we can see back here, May 10th through May 19th, that was a strange time, right? We had the Elon candle essentially right about the same time that this had opened. So May 12th, we got Shiba just got destroyed, went straight down. And then May 19th, that was the nail in the coffin. That was the China candle that caused a lot of problems for most altcoins, including Bitcoin, for obvious reasons. But ever since then, it's done a whole lot of sideways action. We can see a pretty strong support right here at about, 580? It tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So, the possibility of Shiba Inu going lower than 580 is pretty low for obvious reasons, because we're much higher now. But I just want to kind of throw that out there. There's a strong support level right in that range. And then we've got the 50-day simple moving average just kind of hovering almost as a straight line, because the price has literally gone sideways for a long time. So that being said, we will see the 50 inevitably catch up with the price action here. It'll probably just continue to shoot up, just based on the simple fact that we had a strong increase here today. Let's see if we can kind of take a look here at, yeah, okay, makes sense. I was going to say it has to be over 70. So RSI is at well over 70. There's a strong chance we might see a retracement. Keep in mind the price is already kind of retracing right now. Also bear in mind too, here in about 15 minutes, the price action will close for this candlestick. We'll create a new one, and therefore this will become the new potential resistance. So whatever the price action closes at, it should be somewhere in the range of 1347, then we will see that work as the current resistance. Now keep this in mind as well. The price action is much higher than it ever has been if you take the first week-ish out of the equation. And I'd rather do that because its ICO date was strange. It was a really strange time. It opened up with a vengeance. It could have gone a whole lot of sideways here, but instead it went straight down. And the reason why, of course, because we had the two major sell-offs back-to-back within a week's time. So we really can't use this data much for support and resistance levels. I prefer not to use it, honestly. I don't like ICO dates when it comes to support and resistance levels. I think it's a bad estimation of where the price could be, because you never truly know. It's almost always a gamble, and to me, that's more risky, right? So we're going to avoid those altogether and just kind of focus on what we have right now, because if you kind of exclude that, the previous high, if you take that out of the equation, is about 1083. So 1083 is essentially the number, whereas the price right now is really close to about 1340. Okay, so it's much higher. Now again, we'll take a closer look at the time frame to identify support and resistance zones. It's about all we can do when the price jumps up like this. It's very difficult to predict where it's going to be. But here's the thing, it's close to its open. It's close to its open right now. Okay, so there's a strong chance that it'll continue higher. I don't know if it's going to continue as fast as we'd like it to. It might calm down. It might retrace, go sideways for some time. But there's a strong chance with it being this strong of an increase in such a short amount of time that we will see at least a 50% retracement. Now, I teach this to all my patrons. Make sure that anytime you take entry on a coin that has this kind of increase, you wait for it to hit its support and to kind of retrace. Now, obviously, it's retraced some. We can see that there's a large wick here. But when you take the difference here, take this this candle from the bottom to the top, 50% is close to about what, like 1100, 1150 and some change, somewhere in there. Therefore, we still got plenty of room to go before the price should actually hit its bottom. So again, we'll look at some support and resistance levels, but just know that it's important to be careful. We obviously have a convergence on the MACD here. It's really not much to really analyze, but we can go ahead and put that on the charts there. So just throw that on there. That way, when we look at the 1 hour chart, we can see if we had any indication of the fact that this was going to take off. So looking back at the 4 hour, again, we got the 200 and the 50, both working as support, but that's kind of redundant considering the fact that the price went so sideways for so long that these moving averages are almost straight lines at this point. That really doesn't help us much. Okay. Because keep in mind, straight up consolidation, when it comes to just long periods consolidation, the moving averages become less reliable. Got RSI well over 70 as well. Keep in mind the common rule of thumb there, if you were to consider selling, is for wait for the RSI to start coming back down, which it should be doing soon. I'm speculating we're going to see a retracement a little bit further here, but generally speaking, we'll look at shorter time frames. Now, we didn't even have a convergence here. Pretty much the 12 is just kind of hanging out above the 26 there, so don't see much else here. So all we really can do is go to shorter time frames and kind of identify support and resistance levels. And why don't we do this before we do that? Take a quick look at the Ishimoku cloud. Yeah, and this is also another thing. It's because Ishimoku clouds are essentially moving averages in a lot of ways. They're not going to be super reliable in this case as well. So if you just say you had a break above the cloud, it would have been very difficult to gauge when this is going to take off, considering the fact that it was sideways for so long. Okay, again, long periods of consolidation are very difficult to use Ishimoku to your advantage. So keep that in mind. That's why, with the lack of convergence on the MACD on the 4 hour chart, that's not really going to be a relevant factor here. Let's see how far into overtime we are with this. Now, this is interesting. So take a look at this here. So the TD sequential is a really cool tool to use for understanding exhaustion, right? So if you look at TD sequential and you count from 1 to 9, when you hit a 9, that's usually the time in which it should consolidate, or it's going to retrace if it continues much higher. Right, so we have a 9 here, and what it's doing is TD sequential is taking the 4th previous candlestick and looking at it and saying, okay, the price is higher than that 4th previous candlestick's close, therefore we're going to keep counting up. When you hit a 9, it stops because it's basically exhausted, right? That's when the bulls should have conceded, so to speak, let the bears kind of consolidate and sell, right? And then turn around and hopefully after some sideways action, get the price to come up again. So hypothetically, we should have seen this over here and then something like that, right? We want to see a staircase pattern. It was actually starting nice, went up like this and over, but then it just went all to went crazy bonkers here, right? So this extra, what is it? From once we hit the 9 up there, we got an extra 45% pump out of Shiba Inu. Now that's not terrible, don't get me wrong. It's just that we have to expect it to come back down, right? And it comes up that quick, has to come back down. What do you know? That amount of difference is roughly about that 50% from the lowest point to the highest point in the 1 day candlestick. So we can see right here pretty clear as day there's going to be a resistance / support level right at about 1150. So we'll go ahead and mark that. We'll look at the 15 as well to kind of see if we can identify, but we also see here that there is a resistance zone at about 1420. So we got these channels here. So hypothetically, my guess is the price is going to retrace back down to about 1150, potentially bounce and continue back up. And the reason why I think it's going to come that low is just because it raised up so quickly. Now you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, it's already kind of retraced. Why not buy in now? It's going to keep going up. Not exactly always the case. Again, this hasn't even started counting yet. So we've got the 4 sticks there. So basically this candlestick right here, once it closes here in 7 minutes, it should start counting as to 1. In other words, that's the first step, the first hour essentially in a 9-hour period of consolidation / retracement. So at best, we're going to see the price consistently, go sideways for some time here and bounce off that and keep trying to break that resistance. But I think it's more likely than not the price is going to come down, retrace closer to about 11, 12. So if you're in the profit right now, I highly recommend taking some profits. The probability of this increasing again is, in my opinion, very low. Again, I don't know the fundamentals here. There could be a really strong catalyst that's causing this to come up. But based on just strictly technicals alone, it is extremely overextended. It's extremely exhausted. And we're going to likely see a retracement come down to about the 50% mark. Okay. All right. So that's just something I wanted to note. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 15. And we're likely going to be, actually, no, we might actually be above EMA and VWAP. Yeah, we're losing EMA. So we can see the EMA line was working as a support level here and here, kept driving the price up. However, Take a look at how large of a variation this is. Look how much further outside of the standard deviation lines the actual price had gone, right? So as soon as we have this kind of increase, when it comes up like this, the price has to come back down. Let's see what kind of percent that was at the highest point. We're up 34%. A normal healthy bull run will have about a 10% variance from the volume weighted average price, the VWAP line. So that blue line is basically the volume last 24 hours and expresses it as a price. So right now the price really should be about 1184, whereas the price is upwards of about 1329. So it has to kind of come crashing back down because it got too big for its britches, right? It's just you know, the I don't know. I want to think of a funny analogy, but I'm going to hold back on that. But I can tell you that it's extremely overextended, and the likelihood of it continuing upwards without a period of consolidation is very, very low. So again, best case scenario, we get the price to go sideways. Worst case, which I think is perfectly fine, the price comes down, bounces off support because it's creating a support level right here. Look, we got 1150, and we've also got 1180 for the volume weighted average price. So I think it's pretty strong here because if you didn't know this already, the volume weighted average price is a consistent support and resistance level. Therefore, I think it's very likely we're going to see the price kind of bounce off of here. Okay, and this is actually great. So hypothetically, and I hope that you take profits when you can. Try not to be a diamond hand holder. Don't get me wrong, that's not bad, but you never truly are profitable unless you sell your position, right? And why not sell high and buy low? So me personally, if I were to be in a position on this, what I would do is I'd probably sell majority of my position, at least 50%. I'd wait for the price to retrace and bounce off support, add my position back in, and essentially lower my average price. Okay, so they refer that as dollar cost averaging, or just trimming and then re-adding to your position, whatever you want to call it. It's helpful to do so. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you're going to be out in the rain if you were to not sell and just hold on, because there's a strong chance that Shiba Inu will continue past its original ICO open of 1400, I believe it was. It's getting close to that now, but we can obviously see here that there's a resistance zone right at about 1400. That's almost exactly where the actual open was. Okay, now even though I don't really care to use the ICO date as a barometer of the support and resistance level, that's where the price opened, and therefore it's considered to be a resistance in this scenario. At least it's kind of holding true to that. So if you found benefit here, I hope you did. Again, my prediction is just simply put, the price will continue to increase. However, it's going to have to calm down before it does that, right? Because this is not a healthy bull run. This is, I would say, it started off pretty healthy, right? We had this up and over, but this extreme leg up right here is going to cause an extreme leg down, essentially, if that makes sense. Okay. So just be prepared for the price to come down to somewhere around 1150. I think that's a very, very likelihood, very strong likelihood. But yeah, again, benefit, great. If so, please consider joining my Patreon community. Actually, I share all my trades with my community members. It's a signal group. I send out signals to everyone in my group, providing you with entry targets, best practices. Actually, I send it through a bot, so you could just have a one-click follow. So it's a really cool option to be able to share that with my patrons. And just know you're in good hands. I have about an 85% success rate. I share all of that information with you. So if you want to take a look at the link in the description below for my Patreon account, I actually have an instructional video to help you understand what you're getting into before you get into it, if you're to want to do that, of course. Anyways, community's growing, awesome place to go. We got a private chat. We can all learn and grow together, and I communicate daily with all of my patrons. It's a really awesome experience. So check that out in your own time, but I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.